Aaliyah stands in the luxury lobby, rain streaking the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her. Her posture is unyielding, the folder labeled Monroe Holdings clutched in her hand. The soft hum of the city outside contrasts with the cold, polished marble beneath her feet. Greg strides in, his gaze skipping over her to the concierge, his confidence radiating as if he owns the space. He offers a limp handshake, his grip lingering a second too short. "You're the client?" he asks, a half-laugh in his voice. "I was expecting someone more established." Aaliyah's smile is thin, her tone steady. "I'm exactly who you're here to see." Greg flips open his notepad, pre-scrawled numbers glaring up at them. "Let's talk about starter packages. Affordable, quick, perfect for your budget." His emphasis on your hangs like a sneer. Aaliyah doesn't blink. "I'm not here for shortcuts." The concierge shifts behind the desk, his pen clattering. To the floor. Greg ignores it, circling a laughably low figure. "Most folks in this area stick to the basics," he adds, shrugging. Aaliyah's phone buzzes, a notification for leaked documents, but she silences it, her calm unbroken. Greg's eyes flicker briefly to the folder, then away, dismissing it with a wave. "You know, usually clients like you don't go for premium work. It's complicated." Aaliyah's jaw tightens, but her voice remains steady. "Complicated doesn't mean impossible." The concierge clears his throat, glancing nervously between the two. Greg's expression tightens, but he says nothing more. Greg shifts his weight, glancing around as if searching for an escape. The air thickens with unspoken tension. Aaliyah's gaze sharpens, her presence commanding the space. A soft murmur rises from the lobby's distant corners, unnoticed by Greg but felt by Aaliyah. The weight of years of dismissal and quiet resistance hangs heavy in the air. The camera lingers on Greg's face, oblivious to the building's logo etched into the glass behind him, a stylized M framing his arrogance. Aaliyah's eyes narrow slightly, the storm in her stillness building. He saw a woman bowling. She saw a man about to fall. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Greg's eyes scan the folder again, the numbers low, almost insulting. He taps the pen against the table, a nervous rhythm betraying his usual confidence. "This is a starter package," he says, voice clipped but with an edge. "Quick turnaround, minimal fuss, perfect for flipping." Aaliyah's gaze doesn't waver. "I'm not interested in shortcuts or quick fixes." Her voice is calm, but the weight behind it presses the room into stillness. The concierge shifts, glancing between the two, his fingers tightening around a coffee cup. He clears his throat softly, a subtle sign of discomfort. Greg shrugs, leaning back. "Most folks in this neighborhood don't go for premium work. It's just not worth the investment." His words hang in the air, a thinly veiled dismissal. Aaliyah's jaw tightens. "Premium isn't a luxury. It's a standard." Greg's smile tightens, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Look, I'm just saying what the market demands. You want the best, you pay for it. But most people here settle." Aaliyah leans forward slightly, voice steady but firm. "I'm not most people." The concierge's eyes flicker with a mix of respect and unease. He shifts his weight, avoiding Greg's gaze. Greg's fingers drum on the table, the rhythm growing erratic. "Fine. We can talk about options, but don't expect miracles." Aaliyah's phone buzzes again. She glances down. Another message. This one a news alert about a viral post exposing discriminatory practices in contracting. She silences it, eyes never leaving Greg. He underestimated the woman who built an empire from the ground up. The quiet storm was just beginning. Greg settles back in his chair, fingers drumming an uneven beat on the polished table. "Most folks here don't go premium," he says, the words sliding out as if they're just common sense. His gaze flickers over Aaliyah, searching for a reaction, but she remains composed, her expression unreadable. Aaliyah unlocks her phone, scrolling to an email chain she'd saved for moments exactly like this. The subject line, Risk Assessments Client Profiles, glows on the screen. She doesn't need to read the details, she's memorized the coded language, the careful phrases that mean not worth the risk or unlikely to invest. Her thumb hovers over the screen, then she locks it, refusing to let Greg see even a hint of vulnerability. Greg clears his throat, shifting in his seat. It's just how things work around here. People want cheap, fast, easy. No one's looking for marble countertops or custom fixtures. Not in this zip code. His words are casual, but his eyes dart to the concierge, seeking silent agreement. The concierge glances up, his face tight. He doesn't speak, but there's a flicker in his eyes, a brief, almost imperceptible nod toward Aaliyah. He returns to his paperwork, but his posture has changed. He's no longer neutral. Aaliyah's voice is quiet, but carries weight. You're making a lot of assumptions about what people want. Maybe you should ask instead of decide. Greg's jaw clenches, irritation flashing across his features. Look, I'm just telling you what works. I've been doing this a long time. Aaliyah leans forward, her tone steady. Maybe it's time for something different. The room feels smaller, the air denser. Greg's confidence falters, his practiced routine disrupted by the calm certainty in Aaliyah's words. The power dynamic is shifting, slowly, but unmistakably. In that moment, Greg realizes he's not just dealing with another client. He's facing a challenge to the very assumptions that have always kept him comfortable. The unspoken tension is a warning. The rules are changing, and he's no longer the one setting them. The concierge's eyes dart between Aaliyah and Greg, the subtle tension in the room impossible to ignore. He straightens a stack of mail, but his attention is fixed on the exchange unfolding just feet away. Greg, oblivious, continues to outline his standard packages, his tone flat and rehearsed, as if he's reciting lines he's delivered 1,000 times before. Aaliyah's presence unsettles the usual routine. She stands tall, her gaze unwavering, her folder still resting on the counter. The concierge hesitates, then leans ever so slightly in Aaliyah's direction, a gesture so small it might go unnoticed by anyone not looking for it. His lips part, as if he wants to say something, but he thinks better of it, and simply nods, a silent show of respect. Greg doesn't pick up on the shift. He's too busy explaining why upgrades don't really make sense here, his voice growing more defensive with each word. The concierge's fingers tap a slow rhythm on the edge of the desk, his body angled now toward Aaliyah. His loyalty quietly declared. Aaliyah catches the gesture, her eyes meeting the concierge's for a brief moment. There's an understanding. There. A shared recognition of how often moments like these play out, and how rarely anyone stands their ground. The air is thick with unspoken truths, the kind that linger long after words have faded. Greg's pitch falters as he notices the concierge's attention shift. He clears his throat, glancing between them, suddenly aware that the dynamic has changed. The power he's used to wielding so effortlessly now feels just out of reach. The camera would linger on the concierge's subtle nod, the quiet alliance forming in the space between him and Aaliyah. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's real. A small fracture in the old order, a sign that the tide is beginning to turn, one silent gesture at a time. Greg dismissively taps the folder labeled Monroe Holdings, his fingers brushing over, the embossed letters as if trying to erase their meaning. His eyes flicker briefly to the building's logo etched in the glass behind them, a stylized M that gleams with quiet authority. Aaliyah's smile widens, a storm warning held in calm restraint. She leans slightly forward, voice steady but carrying the weight of years spent building from the ground up. "You're standing in my empire," she says, each word deliberate. A quiet declaration that reverberates through the room. Greg's confident facade falters. His gaze drops to the folder again, then to the polished floor. The air thickens with unspoken tension, the power dynamic shifting palpably. Around them, the lobby's distant hum fades, replaced by the heavy stillness of reckoning. The concierge watches from behind the desk, his posture straightening, a subtle nod acknowledging the moment's gravity. He clears his throat softly, eyes flickering between the two. Aaliyah's phone buzzes quietly. She glances down, then back up, her expression unreadable. The screen shows a news alert. Monroe Holdings exposes discriminatory practices in contracting. Greg's lips press into a thin line. He swallows, hard, the weight of exposure settling like a stone in his chest. His usual deflections are gone, replaced by a silence that speaks louder than any argument. Aaliyah's voice breaks the quiet. I build futures, not just buildings, and I don't settle for less. Greg's eyes dart to the exit, then back to the folder. The camera pulls back, framing the two figures against the backdrop of the city skyline. A visual testament to the empire's rise and the old guard's fall. He thought he was quoting prices to a client. She was reminding him who owns the skyline. Mr. Otis Carter moves quietly through the building's back hallway, his work boots leaving faint marks on the polished floor. He pauses by the maintenance closet, pulling out a worn envelope from his jacket. The resignation letter is addressed to management, but it's Aaliyah he seeks out, finding her in a sunlit corridor between meetings. He hands her the envelope, his eyes tired, but resolute. I've been here 30 years, he says, voice low. Watched them pass people like us over, time and again. I can't watch anymore. He doesn't look away, his gaze steady, the lines on his face deepening with the weight of what he's seen. Aaliyah reads the letter in silence, her fingers tracing the creases. The words are simple but heavy, a record of overlooked promotions, broken promises, and the daily grind of being undervalued. She looks up, meeting his eyes. There's no need for apologies, only understanding. Otis's badge, faded from years of use, dangles from his pocket. He removes it, placing it on the table between them. I want better for the ones coming after me, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. Maybe you can make that happen? Aaliyah nods, her voice soft but sure. You've done more than enough. I'll make sure your story isn't forgotten. As Otis turns to leave, a few staff members pause in the hallway, watching the exchange. One young maintenance worker gives a small, respectful nod. Another, a receptionist, glances at the badge and then at Aaliyah, her expression shifting from indifference to quiet support. The camera lingers on the envelope and the badge, symbols of decades of silent labor and a new chapter about to begin. Otis walks away, shoulders lighter, leaving behind more than just a job. He leaves a legacy of truth. Linda Park sits in her small, dimly lit bakery, the scent of stale bread lingering in the air. Her hands tremble slightly as she recounts the EOA conversation with Greg, the contractor whose inflated quote shattered her hopes. He said it's just business, she whispers, voice cracking. But it's our business they gut. Flashbacks flicker, for lease signs plastered across her shuttered windows, the empty shelves once filled with promise. The camera lingers on a faded photo of Linda smiling with her family, a stark contrast to the present. Aaliyah listens intently, her jaw tightening as she adds Linda's story to a growing stack of evidence. The weight of countless similar tales presses down, a silent testament to systemic neglect. Linda's voice breaks the quiet room again. They treat us like numbers, not neighbors, like risks to avoid, not partners to trust. The scene shifts to a close-up of a contract with Greg's signature, the numbers glaringly unfair. The camera pans to Aaliyah's determined face, her eyes reflecting the fire of justice. In a world where profit often outweighs people, Linda's truth is a quiet roar, one that demands to be heard. The room fills with a heavy pause, the unspoken, understanding that this is more than business. It's a battle for dignity. Aaliyah sits at her kitchen table late at night, the blue glow of her laptop casting shadows across her face. She scrolls through a string of internal emails from Greg's company, each one more damning than the last. The subject lines are bland: client prioritization, project risk, but the content is anything but neutral. One message stands out: prioritize safe bets. High risk equals minority clients. The words sting. cold and calculated. Aaliyah's fingers tighten around her mug, knuckles white. She reads on, each line a quiet confirmation of what so many have felt but few have been able to prove. 1. Emails lay out a system designed to exclude, to quietly steer opportunity away from people who look like her, like Linda, like Otis. Don't waste resources on unlikely prospects, one manager writes. Another reply. Stick to the usual neighborhoods. Less trouble that way. The coded language is clear to anyone who's been on the wrong side of it. Aaliyah's phone buzzes. A message from Jasmine, her assistant. Found more. Want me? To print? Aaliyah replies, Yes, we need everything. Her voice, even in text, is steady, determined. She saves the emails, creating a folder labeled Evidence. The weight of the task ahead settles on her shoulders, but she doesn't flinch. Each message is another brick in the case she's building, another story that won't be buried. The quiet of the apartment is broken only by the soft hum of the fridge and the distant city traffic. Aaliyah's resolve hardens. She knows these. Documents are more than just words. They're proof of a pattern, a system that needs to be brought into the light. She closes her laptop, breathes deep, and prepares for what comes next. The fight is no longer just personal, it's justice, written in black and white. The camera's red light blinks steadily as Greg strides past, unaware of the silent witness capturing every step. His confident walk falters for a split second. When a security guard's eyes meet his, a flicker of unease passing between them, quickly masked. The footage reveals Greg's dismissive glance at a black client's proposal, his lips curling in a subtle sneer as he slides the papers aside. Later, Aaliyah sits in her dimly lit apartment, watching the grainy video. The screen's glow casts sharp lines across her face, determination etched in every feature. Her reflection overlaps with Greg's arrogance, a stark contrast of resilience and entitlement. The camera becomes an unspoken ally, recording truths that words have failed to bring to light for too long. The quiet hum of the city outside is a distant backdrop to the tension inside. Aaliyah's fingers hover over the pause button, but she lets the video play out, each frame a testament to the barriers she's fighting to dismantle. The red blink of the camera is a heartbeat, a reminder that even in the quiet, justice is watching and waiting. In the office, Greg's usual bravado begins to erode as whispers of the leaked footage ripple through the staff. His trademark jokes are replaced by a tight jaw and darting eyes, the balance of power shifting with every sideways glance. A junior employee clears her throat nervously nearby, stealing a glance at Greg. "Boss, maybe we should reconsider our approach," she suggests quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Greg's eyes narrow, but he says nothing, the tension thickening around him. Outside, the security camera's red light continues to pulse, a silent sentinel in the unfolding drama. Aaliyah's voice, calm but firm, breaks the quiet in her apartment. This footage speaks louder than any meeting ever could. The camera lingers on the screen, the red light blinking steadily, a beacon of accountability. Otis Carter moves quietly through the building's empty corridors, his footsteps echoing in the early morning hush. He's done this walk for decades, mop and bucket in hand, always before the city wakes. Today, though, there's a different weight in his chest, a mix of sadness and resolve. He pauses at the threshold of Greg's office, the door half open, revealing a desk buried in paperwork and a window streaked with the first light of dawn. He sets his mop aside and pulls a thick folder from his worn satchel. The folder is heavy, filled with copies of contracts and bid sheets, each marked with numbers that never added up for people who looked like him. Otis hesitates, then steps inside, placing the folder squarely on Aaliyah's desk. She's there, reviewing documents, her eyes tired but sharp. Otis clears his throat, voice low but steady. "I've kept records for years, every time they passed someone over, every time a bid was changed at the last minute." He looks at Aaliyah, his gaze unwavering. "You don't have to fight alone anymore." Aaliyah's hand trembles as she opens the folder, scanning the pages. The evidence is undeniable. Decades of discrimination, each document a silent witness to the system's rot. She looks up, gratitude and determination mingling in her eyes. "Thank you, Otis. This means more than you know." A young maintenance worker passes by the door, pausing to watch. He offers Otis a nod of respect, understanding the significance of this moment. A receptionist at the end of the hall catches Aaliyah's eye and gives a small, supportive smile. A quiet show of alliance. The building, once indifferent, now feels charged with the beginnings of change. Otis picks up his mop, but his posture is lighter. "It's time they see us," he says, a quiet conviction in his tone. "All of us." As he walks away, Aaliyah closes the folder, her resolve solidified. The camera lingers on Otis's faded badge, now a symbol of courage and solidarity. The hallway fills with the sense that, finally, no one is fighting alone. Jasmine Brooks sits, hunched over her cluttered desk, the only light in the office coming from her computer screen and the glow of her phone. Stacks of contracts, screenshots, and handwritten notes surround her, each piece of paper a fragment of the truth she's determined to reveal. Her eyes are tired but focused, scanning through files and messages, piecing together the story that's been hidden for years. She drafts a tweet, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Sterling's racist pricing exposed. She hesitates, thinking of the backlash, the risk, and the weight of what she's about to unleash. But the faces of Aaliyah, Otis, and Linda flash through her mind, each one a reason to keep going. Jasmine takes a breath and hits post. The tweet goes, "Live," and within minutes notifications flood her phone. Likes, retweets, and outraged comments pour in, the story spreading faster than she imagined. Hashtags begin to trend, and people from across the city start sharing their own experiences. The office, usually silent at this hour, feels alive with the energy of change. Jasmine glances at the clock, 3:12 a.m., and rubs her eyes. She scrolls through the growing thread of responses, heart pounding as she realizes the impact. A message from a local reporter pops up. "Can you verify these documents?" Another from a community leader reads, "We're with you. Don't stop." In the corner of the office, a cleaning crew member pauses, watching Jasmine with a look of cautious hope. He gives her a small thumbs up before returning to his work. Jasmine smiles, feeling the weight of the night shift into something lighter, something possible. As dawn approaches, Jasmine leans back, exhaustion mixing with pride. She knows the day ahead will be hard, but the truth is finally out there. The camera lingers on her determined face, the screen aglow with the first rays of morning and the promise of justice trending by dawn. Greg's phone buzzes sharply, the screen lighting up with an unknown number. He hesitates, thumb hovering over the answer button. The call connects. A voice dripping with disdain cuts through the quiet room. "Check the news." The line goes dead before Greg can respond. His eyes dart to the glowing screen of his laptop, where the hashtag, or Sterling scandal, trends relentlessly. Notifications flood in, tweets, messages, news alerts, all exposing the discriminatory practices he thought were buried. Greg's face pales, the confident mask slipping. His hand trembles, knocking over a half-full coffee cup. Dark liquid spreads. Across a contract, the ink smudging the name Aaliyah Monroe, a stark reminder of the woman who's unraveling his empire. Around him, the office feels smaller, the usual hum replaced by a heavy stillness. A junior employee clears her throat nervously nearby, stealing a glance at Greg. "Boss, maybe we should check the news," she suggests quietly, voice barely above a whisper. Greg's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. His eyes flicker with a mix of fear and frustration. The weight of exposure presses down, the walls closing in. Outside, the city moves on, unaware of the quiet storm brewing within these walls. But inside, the balance of power is shifting, and Greg is losing ground. Sometimes, the loudest message is the one you don't hear coming. The phone buzzes again. Relentless, a reminder that the world outside no longer turns in his favor. His fingers hover over the screen, trembling as he contemplates silence or surrender. A colleague's footsteps echo down the hallway, hesitant but growing closer. The tension in the room thickens, the air charged with unspoken consequences. Greg's eyes dart to the window, the city lights blurring into streaks of color. The empire he built feels fragile, cracking under the weight of truth. He swallows hard, the taste of defeat bitter on his tongue. The phone buzzes once more, a final summons he can't ignore. In the quiet moments, the walls close in, and the truth finds its voice. Eli stands in the dimly lit office, the weight of the recent revelations pressing heavily on his shoulders. His usual confident demeanor is replaced by a hesitant frown as he watches Greg pace nervously nearby. The hum of the air conditioner fills the gap between them, a constant reminder of the unease settling over the team. Eli clears his throat, voice low and uncertain. "Boss, maybe we should rethink our approach. This isn't working anymore." Greg stops, eyes narrowing, but the usual sharp retort is absent. Instead, a flicker of doubt crosses his face. "Stick to the plan," he mutters, but his voice lacks conviction. Around them, the staff exchange uneasy glances, pens hovering over contracts they no longer want to sign. The rhythm of the office has shifted, the gears of the system are grinding to a halt. Eli's gaze drops to a stack of bids, his fingers tapping nervously. "We can't keep doing this, not like this. People are watching." Greg's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. The quiet stretches, heavy and charged. A junior employee coughs softly nearby, stealing a glance at Eli. Maybe it's time for a change," she whispers. Eli nods slowly, the first cracks in his loyalty forming. The camera lingers on his conflicted expression, a man caught between old loyalties and emerging truths. The system's wheels, once greased with certainty, now creak under the weight of doubt. Change is no longer a distant threat. It's a quiet revolution unfolding in whispered doubts and hesitant steps. The scene fades with Eli's hand hovering over a contract, trembling slightly before pulling back. The office, once a place of routine and certainty, now feels like a battleground of shifting allegiances. Every glance, every pause carries the weight of unspoken questions. Eli's internal struggle mirrors the larger unraveling, a man caught between the comfort of the past and the inevitability of change. The tension in the room is palpable, a silent storm brewing beneath the surface. Eli's eyes flicker to the door, half expecting someone to burst in with news that will change everything. But the quiet remains, heavy and unyielding. He exhales slowly, the weight of his decision pressing down. The lobby security tape leaks, Greg's "most folks here" line echoing across every screen. Memes and TikToks dissect the moment, his tight smile becoming a symbol of everything wrong. Aaliyah watches the clip from her office, her face composed, eyes burning with purpose. The video loops on Greg's office TV, each replay a blow to his shrinking confidence. He yanks the power cord, plunging the room into darkness, but the damage is already done. Social media erupts, feeds explode with outrage, community leaders share their own stories, and tenants rally behind Aaliyah's cause. The once certain atmosphere in Greg's office dissolves. Staff exchange anxious glances, their whispered conversations growing more urgent. A young intern edges closer to Greg, voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we should address this publicly?" Greg's jaw tightens, but the usual quick response isn't there. Instead, uncertainty flickers in his eyes, the first real crack in his armor. Outside, the city pulses with its usual energy, but within the walls of the contracting firm, a quiet storm brews. The lobby's marble floors, once a symbol of status, now reflect the tension and fear. The red light of the security camera blinks, a silent witness to the unraveling of power. Aaliyah's voice cuts through the noise, calm and resolute. "Assumptions built this system. It's time to dismantle it." Her words ripple through the community, fueling a movement that no longer needs to shout to be heard. The scene closes on Greg's silhouette, framed against the darkened office. The city lights outside cast long shadows stretching across the floor, a man forced to confront the truth as his empire begins to crumble for the first time. The community room is crowded, the air thick with frustration and anticipation. Folding chairs creak as tenants settle in, eyes darting from neighbor to neighbor, each person carrying their own version of the same story. A young mother stands up first, voice trembling, but clear. "He quoted me triple what my friend paid," she says, holding up a crumpled contract for all to see. Heads nod. Murmurs of agreement ripple through the group, and soon others add their experiences. Missed repairs, unexplained fees, promises broken with a smile. Aaliyah stands at the front, her presence steady and reassuring. She listens, her eyes meeting each speaker's gaze, validating their anger and pain. An elderly man leans forward, his hands shaking as he recounts how Greg's team dismissed his requests for months. "They told me to wait my turn. My turn never came." The words hang in the air, heavy and raw. As more voices join in, the energy in the room shifts. What began as a collection of isolated frustrations transforms into a shared purpose. Aaliyah raises her hand, quieting the room. "We've all been played," she says, her tone even but powerful. "But together, we're stronger than any contract or empty promise." A maintenance worker in the back stands, offering to help organize records. A single mother volunteers to draft a letter of complaint. The group begins to strategize, ideas bouncing from one side of the room to the other. The camera pans over. Faces, young and old, hopeful and hardened, each one reflecting a piece of the struggle and a glimmer of resolve. By the end of the meeting, the tenants are no longer just victims of Greg's schemes. They are a unified force, determined to hold him accountable and protect each other. As they file out, Aaliyah remains at the door, exchanging quiet words and firm handshakes, her calm strength anchoring the movement. Greg sits alone at his desk, the office stripped of its usual energy. The only sound is the steady tick of the wall clock, each second stretching the emptiness around him. He stares at the stack of contracts on his desk, but the words blur together, meaningless now that the truth is out. His hand shakes as he reaches for a pen, but he can't bring himself to sign anything. Flashbacks flicker in his mind, moments of smug laughter, casual dismissals, the certainty that he would always be in control. Now, those memories haunt him, each one a reminder of the arrogance that brought him here. He opens a drawer and finds Otis's resignation letter, the paper creased and worn. Greg runs his thumb over the signature, a wave of regret washing over him. Outside his office, the usual chatter has faded. Staff move quietly, their footsteps soft, their conversations hushed. A junior employee glances through the glass wall, her eyes meeting Greg's for a moment before she looks away. Discomfort written across her face. Even the most loyal team members avoid his gaze, their confidence in him shattered. The sound of distant chanting drifts in through the sealed windows. Protesters gathered outside, their voices rising in unity. The words are muffled, but the message is clear. The world has changed, and Greg's power is gone. He leans back in his chair, the leather creaking beneath him, and closes his eyes. The office, once a symbol of his authority, now feels like a cage. The camera lingers on Greg's trembling hands, the resignation letter still clutched between his fingers. The echoes of his past decisions fill the room, heavy and unrelenting. For the first time, Greg is forced to sit with the consequences, the silence pressing in from every side. Greg sits in his dimly lit office, the glow of multiple screens casting shifting shadows across his face. The hashtag Aaliyah Monroe Empire blazes across news tickers and social media feeds. Relentless and inescapable. His eyes darted nervously between images of towering buildings, stamped with Aaliyah's name, and the flood of emails and messages announcing canceled contracts. Each notification is a blow, the empire he once ruled slipping further from his grasp. His phone vibrates again. Another client gone. The weight of loss presses down, his usual bravado gone, replaced by a hollow laugh that echoes off the bare walls. He stares at the screen, the city skyline visible through the window. Now a symbol of everything he's lost. The buildings that once represented his ambition now belong to someone else, their lights shining defiantly against the night. A news anchor's voice filters through the speakers. Monroe Holdings has reshaped the city's landscape, while Sterling Contracting faces unprecedented backlash for discriminatory practices. Greg's hand trembles as he reaches for a glass of water, the quiet in the room thick and suffocating. The silence is broken only by the constant ping of his phone and the distant sounds of the city moving on without him. Flashbacks flicker in his mind, moments of tight smiles, dismissive gestures, whispered conversations where he felt untouchable. Now, those memories sting, each one a reminder of how quickly power can crumble. The camera lingers on his face, the lines of stress and regret deepening with every passing second. Outside, life continues, unaware of the collapse unfolding inside these walls. But for Greg, the hashtag that broke him is more than a trend. It's a reckoning, a final accounting for every slight, every shortcut, every time he looks the other way. The boardroom is packed, the air thick with anticipation. Reporters shuffle, papers, cameras click, and city officials exchange tense glances. Aaliyah stands poised, her folder heavy with evidence resting on the polished table. Greg's tie feels constricting, his usual confidence replaced by a nervous energy. Greg clears his throat, attempting to regain control. His hands tremble slightly as he adjusts his tie, eyes darting to the crowd. The silence presses in, broken only by the soft rustle of papers and the distant hum of city life outside. Aaliyah's gaze is steady, her posture unyielding. She watches Greg with quiet resolve, knowing the weight of the moment. The camera zooms in on her folder, thick with documents that tell a story of exclusion and bias. A junior assistant fidgets in the corner, her eyes flickering between Greg and Aaliyah, sensing the shift in power. A city official clears his throat, signaling the start of the proceedings. Greg's voice breaks the quiet, shaky, but trying to sound firm. "We've always followed the market's demands," he says, but the words lack conviction. His fingers tap nervously on the table, betraying his unease. Aaliyah steps forward, her voice calm but carrying the weight of truth. "This isn't about market trends. It's about assumptions that have kept people like me out for too long." The room holds its breath. Reporters lean in, pens poised. Greg's confident facade crumbles, his jaw tightening as he struggles to respond. Aaliyah's eyes never waver. The evidence is clear. It's time for accountability. The tension is palpable, the balance of power shifting with every word. The boardroom, once a fortress of privilege, now feels like the stage for reckoning. The camera lingers on Greg's face, the first cracks in his armor visible. The room waits, the world watching. The room is thick with anticipation, the air almost suffocating as reporters and officials settle into their seats. Aaliyah stands poised, her folder heavy with evidence resting on the polished table. Greg's hands tremble slightly as he adjusts his tie, his usual confidence replaced by a flicker of doubt. A reporter's voice cuts through the silence, sharp and unyielding. "Why undervalue Ms. Monroe?" The question hangs in the air, a spotlight on Greg's faltering facade. His hands shake, coffee sloshing onto his notes, the stain spreading like the truth he can no longer contain. Greg stammers, We follow market trends," his voice cracking under the weight of exposure. The room leans in, sensing the shift, the slow unraveling of a man who thought himself untouchable. Aaliyah's eyes never waver, her calm a stark contrast to Greg's crumbling composure. She steps forward, voice steady but firm. "Or do you follow assumptions about who deserves quality?" Her words slice through the tension, a quiet but powerful indictment. Greg's jaw tightens, a single tear betraying the collapse beneath his mask. "I thought I could get away with it," he admits, the confession hanging heavy. The camera lingers on the room, the collective breath held as justice unfolds, not with shouts, but with undeniable truth. Jasmine's phone pings incessantly, live tweeting the moment. She doesn't need to yell. The truth is loud enough. The hashtag Aaliyah Monroe Empire begins to trend, a digital chorus amplifying the quiet power of dignity and resilience. The scene closes. On Aaliyah's steady gaze, the empire she built standing firm as the old guard crumbles. Aaliyah sits at the head of the boardroom table, her presence commanding yet composed. The room is silent except for the soft shuffle of papers as she slides. A thick portfolio across the polished surface. Photographs spill out. High-rises, brownstones, commercial buildings, all bearing the Monroe Holdings seal. The camera lingers on a property deed, the address matching the very building in which they sit. For a moment, the only sound is the faint hum of the city outside, a world oblivious to the reckoning unfolding within these walls. Greg's face loses all color as he scans the documents, his confident mask slipping with every page. His eyes dart to the door, then to the faces of the officials, reporters, and staff watching him. The silence in the room grows heavier, each second stretching the distance between Greg's past certainty and his present vulnerability. He reaches for a glass of water, his hand unsteady, but the relief he seeks isn't there. Aaliyah's voice breaks the tension, calm, but carrying the weight of years of being underestimated. You thought I was here to ask for a chance. I own this table, this building, and half the skyline you see from these windows. Her words land with quiet force, shifting the balance of power in a way that needs no shouting. Greg tries to speak, but nothing comes out. His usual defenses, sarcasm, bravado, dismissive jokes, are useless now. The boardroom, once his domain, feels smaller, the walls closing in as the truth settles over him. Staff members exchange glances, some with shock, others with satisfaction. A junior assistant in the corner covers her mouth, eyes wide, finally, seeing the real story behind the headlines. The camera pans to the city skyline, the Monroe Holdings logo glowing on building after building. The narration whispers, he thought she was just another client. She was the architect of the world he took for granted. The moment hangs, a turning point not just for Greg and Aaliyah, but for everyone watching. A quiet revolution, undeniable and complete. Aaliyah stands, her presence filling the boardroom with a calm, unshakable authority. She gathers the scattered deeds and photographs, arranging them neatly before looking Greg in the eye. The silence is thick, every person in the room waiting for her next words. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. You asked if I could afford quality, Aaliyah says, her tone even, but loaded with meaning. You're standing in my answer. She gestures to the polished walls, the cityscape visible through the glass, every inch a testament to her vision and work. The Monroe Holdings logo glints in the evening light, reflected in every surface. Greg shifts in his chair, the leather creaking beneath him. His gaze drops to the table, then to his hands, which are clasped so tightly his knuckles turn white. The usual bravado is gone, replaced by a dawning realization that the power he thought he held was never truly his. A city official in the corner clears her throat, breaking the tension just enough for the meaning to settle in. A reporter scribbles furiously, capturing every detail. Jasmine, Aaliyah's assistant, stands a little taller, pride shining in her eyes. Greg tries to muster a response, but all that comes out is a quiet, I didn't know. The words hang in the air, a final admission of defeat. Aaliyah's gaze softens, but her resolve is unwavering. Now you do. The boardroom feels transformed, no longer a fortress of exclusion, but a space where truth has finally been spoken. The camera lingers on the Monroe Holdings logo, the city lights twinkling beyond, a silent witness to the shift that has occurred. Outside, the world continues, but inside these walls, everything has changed. Aaliyah's quiet declaration echoes, a promise that justice doesn't always roar. It sometimes only needs to stand its ground. Jasmine sits at the edge of the boardroom, her phone buzzing with a relentless stream of notifications. She scrolls through her feed, watching as Aaliyah Monroe Empire rockets up the trending charts. Her hands tremble, not from nerves, but from the gravity of what's unfolding. She types, "She doesn't need to yell. The truth is loud enough," and taps send. Instantly her words ripple outward, retweeted, shared, and echoed by thousands. The story is no longer contained within these four walls. It's everywhere, impossible to silence. Across the polished table, Greg's phone vibrates again and again. Each alert is a blow. Headlines, angry messages, clients backing out. He tries to focus on the meeting, but his eyes keep darting to the glowing screen. The confidence he wore so easily is gone, replaced by a growing panic. He swipes through the barrage, his jaw clenched, realizing that the narrative has slipped beyond his grasp. Reporters refresh their feeds, eyes widening as the digital storm intensifies. A city official leans over to a colleague, whispering, "It's gone viral." The atmosphere in the room shifts. What was once a private confrontation is now a public reckoning. Jasmine looks up, catching Aaliyah's eye. Between them passes a silent affirmation. This is the turning point they've worked for. Outside, the city begins to buzz with the news. Community leaders, tenants, and activists rally behind the hashtag, sharing their own stories and demanding change. The movement grows, fueled by every retweet, every shared experience. The power that once protected Greg now isolates him, the walls closing in as the world watches. Aaliyah stands calm, her resolve unwavering. She knows the fight is far from over, but the truth is out, and it can't be taken back. The camera lingers. On Jasmine's phone, the screen aglow with the viral tweet. A symbol that justice, once whispered, now echoes everywhere. Greg sits rigid in his chair, the boardroom's energy transformed by the viral storm raging outside its glass walls. His fingers drum a frantic rhythm on the table, but the sound is swallowed by the weight of what's just happened. Reporters' eyes are fixed on him, waiting for a response. He tries to steady his breath, but it comes out shallow and uneven. Aaliyah stands across from him, her presence unshaken, her gaze steady. She doesn't need to speak. The truth is already out there, amplified by thousands. Greg's voice is barely more than a whisper, but the microphone picks it up, carrying it to every corner of the room. "I thought I could get away with it." The admission hangs in the air, raw and exposed. A hush falls over the crowd, the confession more powerful than any argument. Jasmine's phone buzzes again, the screen lighting up with new messages, support, outrage, calls for accountability. She glances at Aaliyah, a mixture of relief and pride in her eyes. The board members shift in their seats, some looking away, others meeting Greg's gaze with disappointment or disgust. Greg's hands shake as he tries to gather his papers, but they slip from his grasp, scattering across the table. He doesn't bother to pick them up. The fight has drained from him, replaced by a hollow resignation. He looks at Aaliyah, searching for some sign of forgiveness, but finds only quiet strength. A city official clears her throat, breaking the silence. "We'll be reviewing all contracts moving forward," she says, her tone firm. "The message is clear. The era of unchecked power is over." The camera lingers on Greg's face, the lines of stress and regret deepening. He thought he could operate in the shadows, but the light had found him. The boardroom, once his domain, now feels like a courtroom. Justice, delivered not with fury, but with undeniable truth. Otis stands quietly in the doorway, mop in hand, watching the boardroom scene unfold. His eyes hold a mix of pride and relief, a silent applause for the woman who has carried their stories forward. The years of unseen labor, the resignation letter, the quiet strength, all culminate in this moment of justice. Flashbacks flicker across the screen. Otis handing Aaliyah his resignation letter, the worn badge he once wore, the long nights cleaning floors while dreams were deferred. Each memory is a testament to resilience and dignity. In the present, Otis's nod is subtle but fierce, a gesture that speaks volumes without a word. The camera lingers on his badge, now polished and worn with honor, a symbol of change and recognition. Around him, the office hums with a new energy. Staff members exchange glances, some offering quiet smiles, others nodding in respect. The janitor's silent applause is a powerful counterpoint to the loud collapse of privilege elsewhere. Aaliyah catches Otis's gaze and returns the nod, a shared understanding passing between them. The fight is far from over, but this moment is a victory, a quiet triumph built on years of perseverance. The scene closes with Otis turning away, his steps lighter, the weight of invisibility lifted. The camera holds on the badge one last time, a beacon of hope and the promise of a future where every role is valued. The quiet strength of Otis echoes through the halls, a reminder that change is built on the backs of those once overlooked. His journey, marked by years of silent labor, now stands as a testament to resilience and the power of dignity. Each step he takes away from the boardroom is lighter, carrying the weight of invisibility no longer. Around him, the office breathes a new energy, a subtle but undeniable shift in the air. Colleagues exchange glances, some offering quiet smiles, others nodding in respect, acknowledging the long overdue justice. This moment, though quiet, resonates deeply, a victory not just for Otis, but for all who have been overlooked. The camera lingers on the badge, now a symbol of hope, change, and the promise of a future where every role is valued. Otis stands at the edge of the boardroom doorway, mop in hand, watching the scene unfold with a quiet pride. His eyes reflect years of struggle and resilience, a silent applause for the woman who has carried their stories forward. The weight of unseen labor, the resignation letter, and the long fight for justice culminate in this moment of reckoning. Flashbulbs explode as reporters surge forward, cameras clicking rapidly, capturing every expression. Greg shields his face, shrinking beneath the glare, his usual arrogance replaced by a crumbling facade. Aaliyah stands tall, bathed in the harsh light, her calm strength a stark contrast to the chaos around her. The room feels charged, a collision of falling crowns and rising voices. The air hums with the energy of change, the old guard's power dissolving under the weight of undeniable truth. Protesters' chants echo faintly through the walls, a reminder that the fight extends beyond these walls. Aaliyah's gaze meets Otis's for a brief moment, a shared victory passing silently between them. The camera lingers on Otis's badge, now polished and worn with honor, a symbol of the shift from invisibility to recognition. The camera pans slowly across the faces of the gathered crowd, reporters, city officials, and community members, each reflecting a mix of awe, hope, and determination. The tension in the room is palpable, a silent acknowledgement that this moment marks a turning point. Greg's shoulders slump further, the weight of exposure pressing down on him. His eyes dart nervously, searching for an escape that no longer exists. The once commanding presence is now diminished, a man undone by the truth he tried to bury. Outside, the distant sound of sirens and chants grows louder, blending with the camera's shutter clicks. The world beyond the boardroom is awakening, the fight for justice spilling into the streets. Aaliyah's calm demeanor remains unshaken, her eyes scanning the room with quiet confidence. She knows the battle is far from over, but this victory is a beacon, a signal that change is possible. The final shot lingers on Otis's badge, gleaming under the harsh lights, a testament to the power of perseverance and the promise of a new era. Greg sits, slumped at his desk, the office stripped of its former prestige. The walls are bare where awards once hung, and the sterling logo has already been peeled from the glass door. His phone vibrates, screen flashing with a new message. He hesitates, dread pooling in his chest, then unlocks it. The words are blunt and final. Contract terminated. The message is from his largest client, the one he believed would never walk away. He stares at the screen, struggling to process the loss. Another buzz. This time, a smaller client. "We're moving our business elsewhere." Greg's hands tremble as he places the phone on the desk, unable to face the growing list of departures. The silence in the office is suffocating, broken only by the distant sound of Aaliyah's laughter drifting in from the lobby. A sound that fills the space with hope for some and defeat for him. Aaliyah moves through her properties, greeting tenants by name, each handshake a quiet victory. Jasmine stands nearby, her eyes shining with pride and relief. The building feels transformed. What was once a fortress of exclusion now hums with community and dignity. Greg leans back in his chair, staring at the city skyline. The view, once a symbol of his ambition, now mocks him. The buildings he thought he controlled are no longer his, their lights shining as beacons of change. He tries to muster the old bravado, but it's gone. His laugh, when it comes, is hollow, a sound of resignation, disbelief, and regret. His phone buzzes again. Another client, another loss. Each message is a quiet reckoning, a reminder that the world has moved on. The camera lingers on his face, the lines of stress and regret deepening. The final text is more than a business decision, it's a symbol of the shift in power. A quiet but irreversible end to the era he once ruled. Aaliyah stands by the tall window, city lights flickering. Beyond the glass, the boardroom behind her is empty now. The echoes of confrontation and confession faded into a deep, steady calm. Her phone vibrates with new messages, support, gratitude, invitations to speak, but she lets them wait. Tonight, she needs only the quiet. She gazes out at the skyline, her buildings glowing against the dusk. Each light is a testament to resilience, a silent answer to years of being underestimated. The city moves on below, but Aaliyah knows something fundamental has shifted. Justice didn't arrive with a shout or a headline. It came in steady steps, in truth spoken quietly but carried far. Downstairs, Jasmine and Otis share a smile as they lock up for the night. The lobby, once a cold place of exclusion, now buzzes with life. Faces of all backgrounds reflected in the polished marble, each one part of the new foundation. Linda's watchdog group has already posted new guidelines for fair contracting, and tenants gather in the community room, planning their next steps together. Greg's shadow lingers in a distant alley, his world reduced to unanswered calls and empty promises. The city has moved forward, leaving him behind. The camera lingers on Aaliyah's reflection in the glass, calm, unbroken, and resolute. Her voice, soft but certain, fills the space. Change doesn't roar. It whispers, and then it stays. The city's rhythm has changed, the heartbeat of justice woven into every corner. Aaliyah turns from the window, her steps sure, her legacy no longer a question, but a promise kept. The world outside is quieter now, but the shift is unmistakable. Justice, once a distant hope, is now part of the everyday, impossible to ignore or erase. Greg sits hunched at a corner table in a nearly empty coffee shop, the muted clatter of cups and distant hum of conversation only amplifying the isolation, pressing in around him. His phone screen glows with headline after headline, each one a stark reminder of his public downfall. He scrolls through the news, his name now synonymous with scandal and prejudice, every article dissecting the choices that led him here. Outside, rain streaks the window. Neighbors pass by, some pausing to look in, their gazes lingering with a mix of curiosity and judgment. Others spot him and cross the street, unwilling to meet his eyes. The barista, once eager to greet him, now offers only a curt nod, quickly returning to her work. Each small gesture is a reminder that the comfort and respect he once took for granted have vanished. Greg tries to focus on the newspaper in front of him, but the words blur. He sips his coffee, the bitter taste a poor distraction from the reality. Closing in, every movement in the shop feels loaded. A man at the counter glances over, whispers something to his companion, and both shake their heads. The silence around Greg is thick, heavy with the weight of his exposed prejudice and lost influence. He shifts in his seat, suddenly aware of how out of place he feels. The world that once welcomed him now seems to shrink away, leaving him on an island of regret. His phone buzzes again. A message from a former colleague, short and final. "Don't contact me." Greg sets the phone down, his hands trembling. He looks up, catching his own reflection in the window. The man staring back is older, smaller, and unmistakably alone. The city moves on outside, indifferent to his fall. For Greg, every glance, every avoided eye, is a reminder that power, once lost, is rarely returned. Greg stands in the doorway of his former office, the space stripped of its former glory. The walls are bare, the company logo removed, leaving behind faint outlines where his name once commanded attention. Cardboard boxes line the floor, each one filled with trophies, certificates, and framed photographs, remnants of a reputation, now ruined. He moves slowly, packing the last of his belongings, the echo of his footsteps bouncing off empty walls. He pauses, picking up a plaque that once made him proud. The engraved letters feel cold and meaningless in his hands. He remembers the day he received it, the applause, the handshake from the mayor, the sense of accomplishment. Now it's just another item to be hidden away, a relic of a past that no longer belongs to him. Greg glances at his desk, once cluttered with contracts and plans, now wiped clean. The chair where he once sat with authority feels foreign, almost mocking. He sits for a moment, staring at the empty surface, the silence settling around him like dust. The phone that used to ring constantly sits idle. No new messages, no urgent calls, just the quiet finality of defeat. A maintenance worker enters, nodding politely but not stopping for conversation. Greg watches as the man removes the last traces of sterling contracting from the door, peeling away the gold letters. The sound is soft but final, a quiet erasure of everything Greg built. He stands, lifting the last box, and takes one final look around. The office, once a symbol of his power, now feels like a shell. He steps into the hallway, the door swinging shut behind him with a dull thud. The echo lingers, a reminder that the world he ruled has moved on without him. Eli stands in the quiet office, cardboard box in hand, the last of his things neatly packed. He glances around, taking in the stripped walls and empty desks, memories of long days and late nights flickering across his face. Greg stands nearby, shoulders slumped, watching as his former foreman prepares to leave for the final time. Eli hesitates, then steps forward, offering a handshake that is both farewell and forgiveness. "Guess it's time to find better work," he says quietly, his voice carrying a mix of relief and sadness. Greg nods, unable to meet Eli's eyes, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. The silence stretches, filled with the ghosts of old camaraderie and the sting of recent betrayals. Eli looks around at the few remaining staff, some already packing up, others pretending to be busy. He offers a nod to each, a silent acknowledgement of shared struggle and the hope for something better. A junior employee, eyes red from lack of sleep, approaches Eli. "You think it'll be different somewhere else?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Eli offers a small, reassuring smile. "It has to be," he replies. "We know better now." Greg lingers in the background, his presence more a shadow than a leader. He opens his mouth as if to speak, but the words die before they reach the air. Eli gives him a final look, one that says everything: disappointment, understanding, and a resolve to move forward. With a deep breath, Eli turns and walks toward the exit, the box cradled in his arms. The door swings open, letting in a rush of fresh air and the sound of the city outside. For the first time in a long while, Eli feels hope, a sense that dignity isn't found in staying, but in knowing when to leave. Aaliyah walks through the sunlit hallways of her properties, her steps measured and calm. Tenants greet her warmly, their faces lighting up at the sight of a leader who listens and cares. Each handshake, each smile is a quiet celebration of resilience and shared victory. The marble floors, once cold and unwelcoming, now reflect a community transformed. Children play in the courtyard, their laughter a soft soundtrack to the change Aaliyah has fought for. Staff members nod respectfully as she passes, their demeanor shifted from indifference to genuine respect. Jasmine walks beside her, pride evident in her eyes. "You did it," she whispers, but Aaliyah shakes her head gently, replying, "No, we did." Their shared glance speaks volumes, a testament to collective effort and the power of unity. The lobby buzzes with life, a stark contrast to the silence that once filled these spaces. The camera lingers on faces of all backgrounds, each one a story of struggle and triumph. Aaliyah's presence is calm but commanding, a beacon of hope and change. The victory is not loud. It is felt in every corner, every smile, every step forward. The empire she built is not just of buildings, but of people, dignity, and unyielding spirit. The scene closes with Aaliyah pausing by a window, looking out over the city skyline she helped reshape. Her reflection merges with the glowing lights, a symbol of resilience and quiet power. The journey was long, marked by quiet battles and steadfast resolve. Each tenant's story, each small victory, built the foundation of a new era. The community's strength, once overlooked, now shines brightly, a testament to the power of unity and dignity. Aaliyah's footsteps echo softly, a rhythm of hope and renewal. The once cold marble now holds the warmth of countless lives touched and changed. Jasmine's smile widens, her eyes reflecting the promise of a future shaped by justice and perseverance. The camera pans slowly, capturing the mosaic of faces, young and old, diverse and united. The city breathes with new life, its heartbeat steady and strong. Jasmine stands a few steps behind Aaliyah, her eyes shining with quiet pride. The weight of the battle they've fought together settles in her chest, a mix of relief and hope. She watches as Aaliyah moves through the lobby, greeting tenants by name, each handshake a silent victory. "You did it," Jasmine whispers, her voice barely audible over the soft hum of the building. Aaliyah turns, shaking her head gently, a small smile playing on her lips. "No, we did," she replies, her words carrying the strength of shared struggle and collective triumph. The camera captures their exchanged glance, a moment heavy with unspoken understanding. It's a testament to the power of unity, the quiet force that has reshaped their world. Around them, the lobby buzzes with life, faces of all backgrounds, each one a story of resilience and hope. Jasmine's pride is not loud or boastful. It's a steady flame, a beacon for those who have walked the long road beside her. She steps forward, joining Aaliyah, their presence together a symbol of change and perseverance. The scene lingers on Jasmine's face, her eyes reflecting the promise of a future built on dignity and justice. The camera pans to the city skyline visible through the glass, the lights twinkling like stars, each one a reminder of the lives touched and transformed. In the quiet moments, pride speaks loudest, not in triumph alone, but in the shared journey that made it possible. Together, they stand, not just as victors, but as architects of a new dawn. The scene fades with the soft murmur of the community around them, a living testament to the power of quiet pride and unyielding spirit. Linda Park stands at a podium in a packed community hall, her voice steady and clear as she addresses a diverse crowd. The weight of responsibility rests on her shoulders, but her resolve is unshakable. She announces the formation of a new city watchdog group dedicated to fair contracting practices, a direct response to the injustices exposed. Her words carry the hope of many who have been overlooked and dismissed for too long. The crowd listens intently, nodding in agreement, their faces a mosaic of determination and cautious optimism. Linda's leadership symbolizes a turning point, a system awakening to the need for transparency and accountability. Behind her, banners proclaim messages of justice and equity, while community leaders and activists stand in quiet support. The atmosphere is charged with a sense of collective power, a slow but undeniable shift in the social fabric. Linda's speech is not just about policy changes, it's about reclaiming dignity and rewriting the rules that have long favored the privileged. Her voice rises slightly, emphasizing the importance of vigilance and unity in the fight against systemic bias. As she steps down, applause fills the room, not loud but heartfelt, a testament to the quiet strength of a community ready to hold power to account. The camera lingers on Linda's determined expression, a beacon of hope and a promise of change. In the heart of the city, a new standard is born, not with fanfare, but with the steady pulse of justice demanding to be heard. The scene closes with a slow pan over the crowd, faces illuminated by the soft glow of evening light, each one a story of resilience and the promise of a better tomorrow. Mr. Otis Carter walks the familiar halls, but everything feels different now. The faded janitor's uniform is gone, replaced by a crisp shirt and a new badge. Supervisor. Staff greet him with respect, some offering genuine smiles, others with a nod of acknowledgement. He carries himself with quiet authority, his presence, a living symbol of change that's taken root in these walls. As he inspects the building, Otis pauses to help a young maintenance worker adjust a faulty light fixture. "Take your time. Do it right," he says, his tone gentle but firm. The worker nods, grateful for the guidance and the dignity of being treated as an equal. Tenants pass by, some stopping to thank Mr. Carter for improvements, others simply exchanging a few words that carry the weight of recognition. In the main office, a staff meeting is underway. Otis stands at the front outlining new procedures for fair treatment and transparent communication. The team listens closely, some scribbling notes, others meeting his gaze with newfound trust. The energy in the room has shifted, no longer tense or wary, but hopeful, collaborative. Aaliyah visits during the afternoon, pausing to watch Otis in action. Their eyes meet, and she offers a nod of respect, acknowledging the journey that brought them both to this point. Otis smiles, a quiet pride shining in his eyes. He knows the work isn't finished, but the foundation is stronger than ever. As the day ends, Otis walks the halls one last time, his supervisor's badge catching the late sunlight. The building, once a place of exclusion, now feels open and alive. Every step he takes is a reminder that justice isn't just a word. It's a reality being built, day by day, by people who refuse to be overlooked. The lobby, once a cold place of exclusion, now buzzes with life and color. The polished marble floors reflect a mosaic of faces, young and old, families and individuals, people from every walk of life, each one a testament to the transformation that has taken root here. The air is filled with gentle conversation, laughter, and the sound of children playing in the corners, their voices echoing off the high ceilings. Aaliyah walks through the lobby, her steps measured and calm, pausing to greet tenants by name. Each handshake and nod is met with genuine warmth. Staff who once barely acknowledged her now offer friendly greetings, their attitudes changed by the new culture of respect and inclusion. The front desk is busy, not with complaints, but with neighbors chatting and sharing small victories. Repairs, completed on time. Community events planned. A sense of belonging restored. Jasmine stands near the entrance, watching the scene with quiet pride. She exchanges a glance with Aaliyah, a silent acknowledgement of the struggle it took to reach this moment. The camera pans across the lobby, capturing the subtle but powerful shift in atmosphere. Where there was once tension and suspicion, there is now trust and hope. A maintenance worker helps a tenant with a stroller, pausing to hold the door open with a smile. An elderly resident sits on a bench, chatting with a group of teenagers about the history of the building and the changes they've witnessed. The marble itself, once a symbol of cold luxury and separation, now mirrors the diversity and unity of those it supports. The lobby is more than just an entryway. It is the heart of a community that has reclaimed its dignity. Every reflection in the marble tells a story of resilience, every voice a reminder that justice is not just policy, but lived experience. The scene closes with Aaliyah pausing in the center of the lobby, her image reflected all around her. A leader who turned exclusion into belonging and a building that now truly feels like home. Aaliyah stands alone by a tall window, the city lights flickering against the night sky. The world outside moves quickly, but inside, a quiet calm settles around her. She takes a slow breath, her reflection merging with the city she's helped to reshape. The lobby below glows with warmth and life, a living testament to the transformation she's led. Not with noise, but with steady, purposeful action. Her phone vibrates with new messages, notes of thanks from tenants, updates from Linda's watchdog group, a simple "We did it" from Jasmine. Aaliyah reads them, a soft smile touching her lips, but she doesn't reply right away. Instead, she closes her eyes for a moment, letting the silence speak. She knows that real change is not a storm that sweeps through in a single night. It's a current that grows stronger with every small act of courage and every collective step forward. Her internal voice is gentle but resolute. Change doesn't roar, it whispers. And then, it stays. The words echo in her mind, a mantra for the revolution she's witnessed and the one she's still building. She thinks of Otis, now supervisor, of Linda at the podium, of Jasmine's quiet pride, and of every tenant who dared to hope for something better. Their victories are not marked by grand celebrations, but by the simple, everyday moments when justice becomes the new normal. Aaliyah opens her eyes, looking out over the city. The skyline is dotted with lights from buildings she owns, each one a beacon of what's possible when dignity is defended and voices are finally heard. She knows the work isn't finished, but she's no longer alone. The city's rhythm has changed, and her calm resolve is now the heartbeat of a community that has learned to listen, to see, and to stand together. As the night deepens, Aaliyah's reflection remains unbroken in the glass, a symbol of quiet, power, and lasting change. Aaliyah stands before the lobby's towering glass wall, her reflection merging with the city lights beyond. The world outside pulses with movement. Cars threading through the streets, people hurrying home, skyscrapers shining like sentinels. But inside, a deep stillness settles. The glass is flawless, unmarred by cracks or scars, a silent witness to all that has changed within these walls. She runs her fingers lightly along the cool surface, feeling the solidity beneath her touch. This glass once separated her from power, from acceptance, from the future she envisioned. Now, it mirrors her strength, her journey, and the unwavering resolve that has carried her and her community through storms of doubt and resistance. Behind her, the lobby is alive with quiet celebration. Tenants gather in small groups, sharing stories and laughter. Jasmine and Linda chat near the reception, their faces lit with pride. Otis, in his supervisor's badge, offers guidance to a young staff member, his presence a daily reminder that justice is not a fleeting moment, but a lasting transformation. Aaliyah's gaze sweeps the space, taking in every detail, the polished marble, the art on the walls, the warmth in every greeting exchanged. She knows that true change is not measured by headlines or applause, but by the sense of belonging that now fills every corner of this building. The glass, once a symbol of exclusion, has become a canvas for unity and hope. Her phone buzzes with a message from a tenant. "Thank you for seeing us." She smiles, understanding that her greatest victory is not in ownership, but in the community that has grown strong and resilient under her care. As the night deepens, Aaliyah's reflection remains steady and unbroken. The camera pulls back, capturing her silhouette framed by the city she helped reshape. Justice, once a distant hope, is now woven into the everyday lives of those who call this place home. Her resolve, like the glass, endures, clear, unyielding, and quietly powerful.